Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning. Parents, what if we could give you the power to transform your family into something absolutely amazing?
A family where everyone is healthy, gets along, loves Jesus, and has great purpose in life.
Hey, let us flip your thinking to unlock the power God has given you to create your own Crazy Cool family. Hey parents, thanks for joining us. This month we are talking about siblings being best friends. Okay, this is a critical component of building an awesome family. And yet most parents don't even think it's possible. They don't even know what it is sometimes, but it's so important. And why? Because we like having family parties where everyone gets along. Well, that's true. We do. When we get our kids together, we have an absolute blast and everyone gets along really well. But that's not why it's important. We want our kids to be all they can be. We want them to be filled with hope and love and confidence. We want them to step into all that God has for them. Well, guess what? Sibling relationships are so influential in the development of our children. These relationships can be helpful in our child's development or hurtful, sometimes very hurtful. The impact of these relationships goes through childhood all the way into adulthood. In our podcast today, we're going to take one sibling relationship in our family, our two oldest boys, Michael and Maddox, and show you the helpful and the hurtful sides of what I'm talking about. Their relationship was hurtful to Maddox in his younger years as Michael rejected him, but we continued to fight for it with Michael over many years. And then Michael has turned and embraced his little brother, and now the relationship has been oh so helpful in helping Maddox become a much more confident kid. Michael's totally flipped the relationship, and he's helped Maddox to flip his thinking in a lot of areas through that relationship. Okay, so let's bring Michael and Maddox into the conversation. So, Michael, let's start with you. Tell us about your first recollections of your relationship with Maddox. Before you can remember, I'm going to say first that, you were this favored child. You had 4 older sisters that adored you and 5 women in the house that adored you. And here comes this new baby. And so it wasn't a very good transition at first before you even remember that. But tell us about when you remember your first relationship or your first time you remember the relationship with Maddox.
Yeah, I think, taking me way back.
How old were you?
I don't know how old I was, but I remember one of the first memories I remember of Maddox. This is not going to make me sound very good. Because whenever we were playing,
don't worry, it'll get better at the end.
Oh yeah, whenever we were playing baseball outside, which we would do all the time, and I was the big brother. I like to win. I'm competitive, and something happened. Maddox got me out or something in baseball, and I remember chasing him back into the house with this yellow wiffle bat, ready to throw it at him. That was one of the first earliest memories I can remember of Maddox and I not getting along at all.
So Maddox, as you're entering grade school and you're in grade school, let's say. So Michael's he's 3.5 years older than you. What do you remember about your relationship with Michael at that time?
So lower school?
Yeah,
right,
yeah, grade school.
Yeah. My relationship with Michael was, I'd say, it was just difficult, just because, he was older and he was a lot older, and he had his own people, he had his own friends. And so I really was the annoying little brother.
Why were you annoying?
I could see myself as annoying because I don't know, I just wasn't funny, or I wasn't interested. I don't know if I wasn't interesting. I was just a little kid, and so for we have a 4-year difference between us, and so that's a big jump from 8 to 12, or something like that. And so even just me being a kid and he's entering into being a teenager.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
So, and you had McCade underneath you, but so you were an annoying little kid, but how did that make you feel? And what did Michael do? Did he reject you, tell you to get out of your room? How did it manifest itself?
Right. It was really with his friends. And so if he had friends coming over, I just knew to stay away, or knew to not be with them, which I just hung out with Cade. And so I found ways to get around it, but it was still this, my older brother doesn't really like me, or my older brother doesn't really want to hang out with me, which is oh, like I get that, you know, like I was annoying. And so, but yeah, it was mainly just whenever friends come over, or he'd like be off with his friends and I just wouldn't understand. So
Well, and so Michael, as we pursued that with you, what would you say your parents' counsel was as you're going through this maybe late grade school, middle school time, and you've got this annoying little brother? And what was our counsel to you as you were going through that?
I remember a lot of times of like y'all really preaching that siblings are best friends. And like time after time, it's just like, be careful, one day he's going to be your best friend, or be careful, one day he's going to be old enough to, or he's going to be big enough to beat you up or whatever. And like, that's like so hard to see, and he's still not.
close.
But like, it really was just like that constant, not even like preaching, but like inviting us.
But you weren't buying into it. And so why? What were your thought processes? Take the parents into what your thought processes are as a, it's a 6th grader, 7th grader, 8th grader with this self projected annoying little brother here. What are your thoughts? And your parents are telling you, hey, you got to be best friends. You need to pursue this relationship.
Right. And so my thoughts, and when I was in middle school, he was in lower school, was like, we just didn't have a lot of like interactions together at the house. Like we didn't do life together. That's like a big jump, like he was saying. And so my thought process was like very similar to how middle schoolers probably see lower schoolers and how high schools see middle schoolers in the first place. It's like, oh, they're just annoying. They don't have anything like worth giving, essentially. But it wasn't until Maddox got into high school, whenever we started doing life together, was when everything started clicking. We started being in the same proximity and stuff like that made it a lot.
And so one of the things we were seeing as parents, as we talk about this, is we were seeing the impact of Maddox. And Maddox, you may not even remember this, but we were seeing the impact of just the rejection of Michael, and really more so for Maddox than McCade, because McCade, there's what, a 6-year difference there, something like that with McCade versus 3 or 4 with you guys. But just seeing how how you would feel rejected, and you would, Michael doesn't like me, and they're very also, I should note that they're also very different in personality. Michael is kind of an introvert, quietly confident. Maddox a little bit more extroverted, and really more of a perfectionist in the way he does things. And so when Michael rejected him, Maddox is also more of a feeler, a little bit more of a little bit more emotional and sensitive, if you will. And so when Michael rejected that, hey, get out of my room, or hey, I don't want to play with you, or, you guys are being annoying, or whatever it was. Can you remember, even Maddox, how that made you feel at that time?
Yeah. It affected my confidence in a lot of ways of just, like y'all did a great job of speaking life into me. And so did the school and where I was raised, just a great job. But like, there was a voice of like doubt that I already had, and I was already strong. And so whenever Michael would maybe say something that wasn't, I don't know, he was just being a middle schooler or something like that, and just maybe not taking in me or like what I have to say or what I have to think. And so he'd be maybe a little bit too harsh, but I'd like take that to the next level, and I'd just take it in and absorb it. And so if he said anything, I just like thought about it, because he's my older brother. And so like everything he says has like a different ring to it, has a more value on my life. And over time, I kind of just like, if it wasn't good, I kind of just like tuned it out, because since there's such a difference and such a gap, and as you were saying, we just like almost didn't even talk or like hang out at all. And so I kind of just put distance between us and his statements or whatever.
Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
And there was something that y'all did a lot, Mom and Dad, of saying like, Michael, like you tell me all the time, like, Michael, you don't know how much your words really mean. Yeah. And like, that was not something that I really knew, but like, that's something that very regularly you would say to us, of like, hey, especially as the older brother, your words carry a lot of weight, so use them wisely.
Yeah, one of the things that I said to you a lot was, other than Mom and Dad, you're going to have the most influence in the life of Maddox than any other person. So it's your choice what you're going to do to deal with it. Yeah. And even then, parents, I want you to see that, like, even though we were preaching that, and like I said in the beginning in the introduction, a lot of parents don't even know to do that. It's something that's a real hallmark of our parenting training. But even though we were preaching it, Michael wasn't taking it. And so, that's what I want to dig into a little bit of when you're going through that stage. And we're about to talk about the breakthrough here in a minute, but because it will break through, parents, if you stay with it. We've seen it happen over and over again. But during that time period, why wasn't it sinking in? Can you picture back to why you were really resisting, even though we were telling you that you weren't buying it?
Yeah, I was not buying it. And I think that it really goes back to like, I didn't love the Lord, and I didn't have like my own personal relationship with the Lord. And so, man, if anyone was trying to speak into my life, if they weren't encouraging me, then I was like tuning it out.
If it wasn't about you.
Right. If it wasn't about me or helping me or something like that, it was just like, okay, this is not, like, it was very self-centered lifestyle that I lived before. Like, I really had a relationship with Jesus. That's probably one of the main reasons that it didn't stick, because right when I had my relationship is when things started flipping.
Right. And then it does flip and it does break through. And so tell us what happened, Michael, from your standpoint, when you decided, oh, wow, maybe this kid, this annoying little brother, and it was also happening with McKay too, but right now we're just focused on the two of you. What was the breakthrough?
I think, like, to name like a time and place, the breakthrough was going into your 8th grade freshman year, going into whenever we went to Dominican Republic.
Yeah, that was the summer.
Yeah, wow. That was
just a year ago.
Yeah, past summer. And me, Mom, Maddox, McCade went on a trip to Dominican Republic on a mission trip. And, like, that's when everything started, like, clicking a little more. Maddox was coming into high school. You've been coming to Hub for a little bit. We got to go to, like, our church group, our youth group on Wednesday nights. But I think, like, the main thing was that, man, I was pursuing the Lord, and then I was trying to follow Jesus, and I noticed, like, the example Mackenzie set for me and how she pursued me through everything. And I was like, okay, that's what I get to do with my little brother. And thank God that Maddox was easier to pursue than I was to pursue, because I was really hard to pursue. But yeah.
And so, Maddox, when did you feel like it started breaking for you, when Michael started to accept you? Was it, I think it might even been before that kind of year when you start going to Hub, everything, and then it kind of had a big breakthrough at the Dominican trip a year ago. But, and what was happening in your world?
Yeah, so moving upstairs, like, we were in the same level, doing our own thing, was something where I was like, I'm literally closer to my older brother. Like, we're actually...
Yeah, proximity, because
you
were downstairs.
I have to go through his room to get to my room,
right.
So we kind of just got to have more circuit, it's almost like you were there again, it's like, because he was in football all the time, and then you had Hub, so there's just a lot of, you were gone a lot, and so it's like we were there together. And then, but honestly, inviting me to Hub, like that first invite.
And Hub is our youth group at our church.
Yeah, inviting me to the youth group, and I was just like, I liked that, like, I wanted to be in that, and so the fact that you just invited me, and I was like, all right, let's do it. And then we just went from there, and I got to see actual Michael that loves Jesus. I got to see him on a daily, weekly basis of who he really is. And
so fast forward to now, we were talking about how the relationship with the siblings can be hurtful now, and we saw that, we kept preaching to you, Michael, hey, part of the reason Maddox is struggling with his confidence is because of the impacts you're having in his life. Would you, and parents, what we find with kids, and Michael, I want you to speak to this before I go to the helpful part, is, did you want to hurt your little brother when you were going through all that? I mean, I know he was annoying and all that, but I'm going to put some words in your mouth, because I don't believe, and I want you to confirm or deny, but I mean, I don't think you really wanted to hurt your little brothers. You just didn't want them in your life. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I would say that I just didn't know. I didn't know the impact my words had. I didn't know. I didn't believe that my words could have, like, effect on his confidence, because, like, we are very different people than I am on more of the confident side. And so for me to, like, relate, and Maddox is really good at relating with people and, like, feeling other people, and I'm not good at that. And so for me to be like, my words mean something to him, like, there's no way. So I think it was really more just ignorance.
Yeah, and so parents, but what I want you to hear out of that is that usually the older sibling does not want to hurt the younger sibling.
Right.
They just don't believe in it. And so part of it is selling them on that to convince them that, yes, it is powerful. In this case, it took till you're a junior in high school to do it. But then once that happens, so you guys have spent the last year, and then maybe even a couple of years together in the room, because Mackenzie, the daughter right above Michael, went to college, and that's when the room shift changed for you to go upstairs a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. Tell us about how that relationship has now impacted your life in a helpful way.
Yeah. The influence of my older brother is it's a massive change. And the first thing we did was we went to what's called student leadership, which was where really you
again in our youth group at our church. Yeah, you
learn how to become a leader. And so Michael is he's a leader. That's who he is. And so I got to see him lead. I got to see him lead, but also there's daily times where he got to talk to me and invest in me, and we got to have godly conversations. And just seeing the life change that happened in his life of not liking Jesus to liking Jesus, and then he's just consistently spoke confidence and boldness. That was obviously from Jesus, but he just spoke it in me, and then got to live it out. I got to live it out through student leadership.
Yeah, and so Michael, what have you seen over this last couple of years when you looked at Maddox a couple of years ago versus the Maddox you see today? One, when he started, all of a sudden you kind of started saying, hey, this is kind of a cool kid after all. But what have you seen? How have you seen him grow in his relationship with the Lord and his own confidence?
Yeah, I think that is the biggest thing, is his confidence has grown. And his heart for others it's probably always been there, but I've just really noticed it and really seen it over the past year of just being heartbroken for people, and just really having the Father's heart towards people, but in another way, his confidence of getting to speak in front of people and being able to lead our group and lead our small group like that. Yeah. And really walking out in authority and declaring scripture with authority and knowing that the power is within him. Maddox is one of the wisest people that I know, because of his quiet time challenges me every single morning. And so I could go on. There's so many areas that I've seen him grow really in the past 18 months, crazy.
Well, and I would comment on that too, to say Maddox, when years ago we saw him struggling with his confidence and struggling with his interactions with people, and really just kind of maybe being in a shell a little bit, even though we saw greater things for it. And I believe that I hope that maybe mom and dad had some influence too, but I believe also that there's that y'all's relationship is really it's paralleled. I mean, so as you guys have been connected, then all of a sudden, if you draw that graph of your relationship going up, as that's happened, his confidence, and he's blossomed during that time as well. So I think it's amazing. And parents, that's why we keep commenting on those sibling relationships are so key. We've seen a hurtful and a helpful side of that. Let's finish with this. What advice would you give parents? So if we've got, just think about, you've got parents sitting in your audience right now, and they would much rather hear it from you guys than from me. But what advice would you give parents on how to encourage siblings to have helpful instead of hurtful relationships?
I would say the biggest thing, outside of being consistent and telling them, hey, man, your little sibling is cool, you guys are going to be good friends, and being consistent in that is really be patient. And there's not a lot parents can do other than pray, and other than really pray
for those relationships
to be healthy. And it really starts with the older sibling, I think. The older sibling, because the younger sibling wants the approval, the younger sibling wants to be accepted, to be loved, and it's the older sibling that has to
initiate,
extend out the hand. And so really focusing on the older sibling and saying those things of and then being patient and being really patient with them, because it's gonna take time.
What would you say, Maddox? I mean, because you're also an older brother,
right? I completely agree. It takes a lot of time, and it may just be where they're at in life. It may just be because of their grade level and wherever it is. But I completely agree that it starts mainly with the older sibling, because if the older sibling gets it, then he can transfer, and then it's like a ripple effect that goes through with all the members of the family. But it's also trusting him, and like he's your son, trusting his relationship with Jesus and trusting his walk with the Lord, and that it will be okay, and that and also speaking truth into the younger sibling. That's still very, very valuable, of speaking just facts about God's love and facts about who he is. And so it's like that.
Yeah. So to wrap up, parents, Maddox, you were gracious to Michael about the younger days. Michael will probably agree with this, but I mean, Michael was a bit of a brat to you as an older sibling, and it had an impact, a damaging impact. But parents, what's cool about it, and we've seen it with many relationships in our family, it's something you pursue over the life of your family, that when that older sibling does get it and it does kick in, the positive effect, the helpful effect outweighs all of the harmful effects. And so now, I mean, you guys really are best friends. I mean, Michael's about to go off to college, and it's going to be a tough separation, when a lot of siblings, it's like, oh, wow, brother's going to college, big deal, because I wasn't connected with him in the first place. Well, this is going to be a bit of a challenge when you guys do separate. And so I love that advice, though, is just to trust and to pursue. I think that another thing I would add to it is, just like with that Dominican trip, is we purposefully create experiences in our family where you guys will be together, not just you guys, but all of our siblings and different siblings. And we try to put connections there so it has the opportunity to flourish, because it's a big deal, parents. It's a big deal. It's important, because if siblings are connected, they can have helpful relationships that help them become better versus hurtful. And so often with parents, so often with families, the sibling relationship is so damaging, and we need to correct that. And it takes a lot of work. As Michael said, it takes a lot of persistence, a lot of effort, but it's worth it. Parents, thanks for listening today. We are so grateful for you being with us, and we hope you enjoyed and got a lot out of today. Thank you, boys, for being here with us. And parents, go be crazy. crazycoolfamily.com.